The reason we do Market Buzz is just to like share whatever we know, whether we're right or wrong, because we're gonna be wrong. A 100% guarantee statement is that I am gonna be wrong in the future, but you try to be less wrong.
That's why you try and be diversified and don't go all in on one thing, because not everything is going to make it.
So when you break it down, is there anything aside from the money that gives you that dopamine hit?
When I do analysis and I'm bullish on something, and then a few years down the line, even if I'm out of it and it hits where I thought it would hit, it just gives me great satisfaction. That's the dopamine hit. It's a predicting thing. We don't have a crystal ball, do we? But I like doing it.
Welcome to another episode of Market Buzz. We're here with Toby Reily, or as many people on eToro know him, Orbital Mute, which I definitely want to get into, try to understand what that's about. 151 copiers, 4K followers, and over 300K of assets under management. We are with, I believe, a crypto investor. Please tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah. 50% of my portfolio is crypto, so yeah.
Okay, so this is why I have Mimi here, because this is the crypto part of the conversation. Thank you, Mimi, for popping by, because I know that you are definitely far away. You know?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I definitely want to have this conversation. I'm really excited about it, to have another fellow crypto investor. And yeah, we're really interested in like your strategy and your journey. So
yeah.
So in this,
awesome. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, in this episode, we're looking to get your story, try to understand a little bit about who you are as an investor, why you invest the way you do, what makes you make decisions, how do you deal with downturns, all of these different juicy things. What's the mission? Why are you doing this? Is it for yourself, for the family? Who knows? You're going to tell us in this episode. But yes, and we want to know what the future holds for you and your followers too. I'm sure they want to know as well. So we're going to get that in another episode of Bam Live. Bam! Welcome to another episode of Market Buzz. So my brother doesn't have to do it in post. So let's start at the beginning. You know what I mean? I want to understand what makes Orbital Mute. You know what I mean? Like, what was the thing that got you into investing? Or was the spark?
Well, I think it's been a gradual process, really. My family always sort of encouraged me to invest, and I never really did until I was like 20, 21, 20, 22 or something. And I started doing funds, investing in funds like ETFs in my ISA. So like a, tax-free kind of thing. And I did that for a number of years. And then I started stock picking in there, which was fun. I think I bought Netflix. Like that was one of my first stocks I bought. And then, so I did that for a while. And then a friend of mine recommended XRP, this cryptocurrency. So this was back in like 2018 when the big bull run was happening and Bitcoin was up to 20,000 and everyone was talking about it. And he was recommending it. I was thinking, what is this crypto? I'm not really into this crypto. But over time, he kept going on about it and saying this XRP, this bridge currency, this is fascinating stuff. This is technology of the future, and you need to get involved. So I kind of like flipped my mentality, and I was like, okay, I need to get involved then. Let's give it a go. And he recommended eToro, and I think by me clicking on his joining link, I think it gave him like $50 or something. So he was happy with that, and I started buying crypto, but only a few, just XRP, and I think Cardano as well. That was back in 2018.
That's super interesting because like that if you're investing in an ISA, you're from the UK. So I'm grabbing a little bit of information from all the things you're saying. And then you started at 21, which actually is young. You know what I mean? I started investing when I was like 25, 26.
Yeah.
So like, you started pretty young, I would say. Like your family convinced you early.
Yeah. I was just passively investing in funds and things, just with a bit of my wage. But I wasn't like super into it yet. That would come later. When I started eToro and I read all the posts and I loved the social side of it, and I started posting myself and getting involved. And I think that brought the passion out in me for investing.
For someone so young, I'm only guessing that you would have had, big influences at that time. Like, did you have anybody or people that were big influences at that time?
Yeah, my granddad, really. My granddad always used to say to me, "You're either a producer or a consumer." I've never forgotten that. It's kind of not exactly true because to an extent we all consume things nowadays, but you know what he meant? He meant own things, own income producing assets. And yeah, he'd always invested throughout his life. So probably that influence got me started on it. I kind of always felt guilty before I started for not getting in early. It was never pushed upon me. It was just, family advice, get investing, secure your future, sort of thing.
So it sounds like you started with crypto, which I at the same time as me, around about the same time. It was just before the bear market. Is that correct from memory?
It was just as it was sort of starting. No, I was quite
Yeah.
lucky really because I'd been following XRP because of my friend, and I watched it hit $3.40 or whatever it hit at its all-time high. I think it was December 2017 or January 2018, and then I watched it for a little longer, and I did my first buy in May, and that was my first buy on eToro in 2018 at 60 cents, I think. So it was quite a good entry
Yeah.
looking back at it now, but there was points where it dropped down to 10, 11 cents, like in COVID. But
I
yeah,
can,
it could have been worse. It could have been a worse entry.
yeah, but man, that's interesting because like the first time I ever got like I remember back when funny money appeared, right? Bitcoin like appeared,
Yeah,
and it was like a random bank in the middle of nowhere. Like I remember my building, just outside my building, there was this shop, and they opened up, and it was like Bitcoin. Like I remember it was like $200. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, yeah, I'm
yeah,
not gonna buy it. Like I didn't have any money. You know, I was like halfway through university trying to figure stuff out,
yeah. I don't remember
and
it at that point.
yeah, and then it's like all of a sudden I was like, nah, whatever, I don't care. And then next thing you know, it's just like I started going. Same for me. I bought my first Bitcoin transaction was in 2017 in Coinbase when they all
Yeah,
crashed and the
yeah.
peak was 9K. You know what I mean? And I'm actually kind of thankful of buying at peaks because it teaches you a lot buying at the peaks.
It
There's a lot
certainly does.
of yeah. It teaches you like that there is risk in this market, and like a lot of people, if you've invested in the last 2 years, you whatever you would dart at the board, and then whatever you hit, what's going on, right? So a lot of people think, oh, this is just an easy way to make money, but there's risk involved in this, right?
Yeah,
So there is a reality that people don't seem to grasp, and it's okay for assets to come down if you truly believe in the fundamentals and the story
yeah,
and everything around it as well.
yeah.
So cool. All right. So I want to hear a little bit more sort of about your process right now, right? So it's like, how do you evaluate? Because like the hard thing about crypto is getting a feel for what the asset is worth, right? Like you can make the similarities, like you can match and create the similarities between like penny stocks and cryptocurrencies,
Mm.
right? And at least at the beginning for the meme coins. But how did you evaluate when you first started, right? Like what was the thing that finally made you say, okay, I'm going to buy XRP, and how has that changed to today?
When I first started, it was maybe a case of FOMO. You see, I was buying the peaks. Every time it would go up, say it hit 60 cents from 50 cents, I would think, oh my God, this is going to the moon. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy this. And by doing that, it contributed to pretty bad stats in 2018 and 2019 because I should have been doing the opposite. I should have been buying it when it was really low. And that's what I do now. And that's the big lesson I learned from that is not to dollar cost average upwards if you can help it. Sometimes you can't help it, but sometimes the market goes that way. What do I look for in cryptocurrency
Well,
now?
just both cryptocurrencies, but just any investment that you do now, because obviously, like, there's a lot of experience built in. Your portfolio shows that it's like at the beginning there was sort of like the negatives, but then you see yourself coming out of that into what the portfolio is worth now, which is at
Yeah,
really good levels. So I want
it's
to
grown.
understand.
It's grown,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I want to
Yeah.
understand what are the things that you are doing towards,
Sorry,
like,
Nestor,
how do
you
you
paused
evaluate it?
out.
I don't know if he's still
There
on
we
the
go.
call.
We're back.
There you go. You're back. Yeah, yeah.
Um, No, I was going to say my
So how
portfolio.
do you decide? What is the things that make you?
Well, my portfolio is kind of multi-strategy, so there's sort of two things going on at once. I've got half of my portfolio in sort of dividend-paying value stocks, really. Some of them are a bit of growth, but it's for the long term. That section is for the very long term, and I'm looking at all the metrics that you'd look at when you pick stocks. Rising revenue, rising profits. I tend to pick well-established companies. Like I've got a big holding in Legal and General. They're not going anywhere, and they've got a huge dividend. And I reinvest the dividends. O Realty, it's well established. It's been raising its dividends for decades. Getting back to the point, that's the long-term hold, and I see it as safety, which is funny because your view of risk gets a bit warped when you're investing in cryptocurrencies. I see that side of my portfolio as sort of less volatile safety. I do have a few growth picks in there, like Canadian Solar. So the other side of my portfolio, which is where I look for the growth, and this is my edge, this is where I try to outperform the markets, is cryptocurrency. And how do I pick it now? I mostly use basic TA. So last year there was a time when I was doing a post about Cardano, HBAR, XRP, and I put them all side by side, paired against Bitcoin, and they were right down against their multi-year supports. A long line going back. I think on XRP it was like 10 years. It would hit the support line, it would go up in a bull run. It would hit the support line, it would go up in a bull run. Simple as that. And these three were down on the supports: HBAR, Cardano, XRP, and those were what I was buying. Other cryptocurrencies, they're new. So like Fetch AI play, I'm kind of jumping in a momentum trade. That's what the whole process was. So yeah, I'm looking for utility with cryptocurrency. A lot of people see cryptocurrency as currency. I'm looking at it for what it does, not for it being an alternative currency, for what utility it can provide, innovation in the world going forward.
The use case.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're looking at like the ecosystem and the development in those ecosystems, those projects. Is there anyone specifically that like you find really exciting when you look at it at the moment? Is there anything that really stands out?
Cryptocurrency?
Yeah.
One in specific?
Mm.
Well, at the minute I'm looking at Curve DAO, Curve DAO. It's like for stable coins. It's a stable coin swap system. So looking to the future, stable coins, you've got US dollar Tether and all the other stable coins. I think they're $245 billion. Okay, that's the market cap of stable coins at the minute. Analysts project stablecoin market cap to be around $3 trillion by 2030. So we're looking at a conservative times 10 here. And what Curve does, it just provides Let me
like
start
a
again.
platform for stable coins. Like I remember you posting about it a while ago, and it's like, from what my understanding of Curve, it's like the platform for stable coins to kind
Well,
of
it provides low slippage stablecoin swaps. So if you want to swap it into any other stablecoin quickly, without losing money, basically, and it provides incentives to holders by paying out the fees that it makes to the holders, which lock up their Curve token. So you as a holder, you can lock your Curve token into VCurve, and you can lock it for 4 years, and you get 1-to-1 VCurve, or like 1 year is 0.25. So what I mean by that is there's an incentive to hold it for the long term, to lock it up for the long term.
Wait, is that 25% or 0.25?
0.25 ratio. So
what's not?
You
The
get
English
more.
is getting to me. The English is getting to me.
Let me try and explain it really simply. there's an incentive to lock up your curve, which therefore decreases the supply, which therefore puts upward pressure on the price as buying volume comes in. And it's like a flywheel effect. And the more volume that happens on curve, the more rewards are distributed towards those who lock up their tokens. It's been designed really cleverly, I think.
So what is the return? Because you said the return is not 0.25. So what does that translate, like numbers wise? Like I know the word, I just don't know what it means.
Now we're getting into technical here, but if you lock up one curve token, so curve is 70 cents, so it might be a bit lower. If you lock one token up, you get, for 1 year, you get 0.25 V.
What's not mean? What's not mean? Like I'm
Zero.
confused in the word. Okay, okay, there we go. 0.25%. Okay, no, it's just it's. I know what it means. My brain is not computing. So that's on me. That's on me. That's on me. That's on me.
Sorry, I had the same reaction. I had the same reaction to that.
Yeah. My bad. Okay, so you're getting 0.2. So you're getting 25%, or you're getting 0.25%.
Well, it's not that important. Just what's important is that the longer you lock up your curve, the higher rewards you get, which incentivizes people to lock them up and therefore decrease the supply.
Okay, I get you. So
I like it at the minute. And technicals, its all-time high was like $6, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one to watch because stablecoins are having such a spotlight on it now because especially, Jerome Powell even mentioned it in the last meeting.
Yeah.
So
well, Trump right now, Donald Trump is trying to rush through the stablecoin legislation. He's ordered it, and I think it's called the Genius Act, which stands for a load of words that I can't remember. But they've put the stablecoin bill as past the Senate, and I think it's pending in the House, and then it's going to go back to Trump's desk for him to sign, and then I think it'll just be fully regulated in the USA, stablecoins. So he's rushing that through for a reason, because he wants to be competitive with the rest of the world. The rest of the world wants digital assets.
Okay. Let me ask you one thing, something that you mentioned. So when you talked about XRP, HBAR, and doesn't matter, and Cardano. You mentioned that you actually that you saw them at resistance based on what? Bitcoin pricing. So you're using Bitcoin to sort of price the asset. So you're using Satoshis in this case?
Yeah. Measuring them against Bitcoin. A lot of altcoins seem to have really neat charts, long-term charts against Bitcoin, and a lot of traders just use them against Bitcoin. I like to look at them against dollar as well.
Obviously. Have you ever tried oil?
Oil,
like the WTI, the Western trade.
Trading oil?
No. Like figuring out the price of cryptocurrencies with oil. I like using oil as a measure of value.
Oil. No, that would be interesting.
It'll be like the thing is like I'm an economist by training. You know what I mean? So it's like I like to just play around with the numbers on like exchange rates and figure out exactly how that affects everything, right? But I've always used oil to kind of figure out the prices of real assets. Because oil is something that everybody needs and it's throughout the economy. So it allows you, it's a way to sort of like look at a different currency and see how, one of the things that surprises me is that we're seeing a rally, but we're also seeing oil come down. So it will be interesting. Let me know how that goes. Let me know if you ever try it out. Let me know how that goes. Because I've done, it's like I've seen the use of Satoshis and the use of Ethereum to kind of like see how, based on the price of Bitcoin, how every other asset is sort of valued.
A lot of people are looking, at the future of Ethereum. They're looking against Bitcoin, and it looks like it needs to rise to the top of the resistance. I think I calculated it at like $5,000 to $6,000, depending on where Bitcoin is, because obviously if it's priced against Bitcoin, then it's going to change depending on Bitcoin's price. But that's one of the reasons I invested in Ethereum this year, albeit I entered a bit high. So I'm sort of dollar cost averaging down. But one of the main reasons I went for Ethereum was that Bitcoin chart.
Nice.
Yeah,
sorry. Because it's interesting because you said this at the beginning. It's like you try to dollar cost in when the price of the asset is coming down. So it makes perfect sense, Mimi, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so you're talking about like ETH Bitcoin pairs. I mean, Bitcoin pairs, sorry. I think the other one that's really good is like XRP Bitcoin is looking really good.
Yeah.
Maybe Cardano. But yeah, it's definitely really good to when people are like what altcoins to pick. And it's quite difficult because there's so many. And you want to look at like key narratives and everything. But definitely the alt Bitcoin pairs is what people don't really mention very
Yeah.
much.
Very important. I mean, last year when I was doing those posts, and I think I reposted it quite a few times because I was really I had conviction on it. So when those cryptos were at their supports, you had people commenting like, why would they go up? They're down, they're down. But what else can you go off apart from history and okay, potential utility? We all invest on potential. But there's evidence of every single time it has hit the support, it has gone up from the support. And I like showing stuff like that in my posts. And that's one, I don't always get it right. I've made very wrong predictions, a few recently, but that was one that worked on all three.
No, but it's being an investor, you're not going to get it all right. You know what I mean? Like whoever tells you, I've always had this saying, whoever tells you they can get it 100% right is the guy that wants to 100% steal your money. So it's interesting. So let me ask you, how often do you pay attention? How much research are you doing on a daily, weekly basis, if any?
Well, a lot of the time, I'm quite passionate about it. Can you hear me?
So you just every day? Yeah. Cut in and out. You cut in and out.
Yeah. So like
go
I
again.
follow company earnings. I follow news articles. I'm always doing something. I'm pretty active with it.
Let me ask you, what's your background? So like, what do you do is this what you do full time or?
No, I've just got a pretty mundane job. I've got a degree in film, so
Nice.
not relevant really. No, this is just my passion. Just I'm obsessed with it. I want to do it full time, definitely.
Nice. And then what's your day job?
I'm a courier.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
so nothing important. I work hard.
Nice. No, the thing is like it's super interesting because anybody can do this. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people mystify the idea of investing as this sort of like outlandish thing. But the reality is that if I can do it, it took me 7 years to graduate from university for my economics degree. And it's like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's like I have this.
Economics is a lot harder than film studies, I'm sure.
It's like econ, you just have to like read the book. I just didn't. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like, I was like, I'm going to figure it out. And it's like, no, but it's like, but the thing is just like, I don't know, like I think there are so many different ways to do it. Even the way that you were doing it before, where it was just ETFs. Like a lot of people disregard that, and it's just like it's investing. Like I don't want to even turn that. We're not realizing the actual pain points, which is like you're losing money to inflation. If you're not taking any risk, you're not making any money, and it's like, and you don't have to go into crazy risks like cryptocurrency sometimes, even though some of the calculated risks might even be better at some points than investing in proper stocks or individual stocks, right? So that's something that's fantastic, and like I'm sure your followers are happy with you, you know what I mean? With 150 people, and growing too.
Yeah, I mean, Toby's quite popular on eToro. You have a bit of a following, but it's at the end of the day, with investing, like Nestor, you're saying, it's still seen as such a difficult industry to get into, and a lot of it, and we talk about it all the time, that a lot of it's so much psychology. It's so much psychology, and I could even say for myself, if I could do it, anyone could do it, because I remember so long ago in my 20s, I looked at I had a friend that was reading newspaper. This is how far back we're going, and there was like stock market, and I'm like, do you understand anything about stocks? And they're like, no. And I'm like, that's so difficult. And I remember that moment at a cafe just thinking I could never get into investing at all, because it seems like another like level of intelligence. I'm not saying that we're not intelligent. It's just that there's such a misconception with getting in like stock trading, investing.
I remember when I was at uni, actually, when I was like 19, I remember a friend had Bloomberg on, and I remember just thinking, all this stuff, all these tickers flying by, and I was just not understanding it. I think back to that moment, quite a lot, because now, like, because I've been so obsessed with markets and everything, I kind of understand pretty much everything. And it's
Yeah.
such a contrast to back then.
Yeah. I just looked this statistic up, and I don't know how true it is, but you're part of the top 16% of UK Brits that has a stocks and shares ISA. The stocks and shares ISA is one of the least used products in the UK, and it's
Yeah.
insane to me. It is
Yeah.
nuts
Yeah.
because it's like no tax, 20,000 a year you can put into this account, and you can even just earn interest on it. And then many Brits don't use it. It takes a foreigner to understand it. You know
What's
what I
the
mean?
stats? 16%.
16%, yeah. And of adults currently hold the stocks and shares ISA.
That's
While, yeah, 60% of the UK doesn't even have an ISA at all.
Yeah.
So that shows. It's like there is so much.
People
Like
need
the fact,
to, because pensions are going to get less and less as lifespan gets longer and longer, and governments are less reluctant to pay out. People need to be doing it. People need to be investing. Whatever your risk is, whether it's low risk or medium risk or high risk, people need to invest, I think.
Yeah, just let the UK government borrow and get your 4.5%. You know what I mean? It's okay. It's okay. The Bank of England, are they meeting today or tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow.
I find myself paying attention so much to US economic calendar that it comes out on the news and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I have no idea what's happening in Australia. So.
Well, you got a new Prime Minister.
New Prime Minister, yeah.
But yeah, no, Bank of England is May 8th, so 2 days from now. Okay. I pay attention to the Bank of Canada, and Akeem always shuns me because I pay attention to the Bank of Canada. But the Bank of Canada is very important. Very important. All of the banks are very important because they affect other interest rates. But I digress. All right. So let's pivot back a little bit. And I want to understand, okay, you've been through a couple of crashes, like I think all of us here, right? And I want to understand what have you learned from it, right? Like, because definitely I think from what you've said so far, you have changed your perspective after each one of the crashes. And I want to know what sort of lessons you've learned from those.
Bye. That is what I've learned. Honestly, it really is. In 2020, so at the end of 2019, I'd just started diversifying and learning from my mistakes and wanting to produce a portfolio that would last and would make gains consistently. So I started buying stocks and things, but I hadn't put loads of money in. And at the time, COVID came around, the COVID crash, March 2020. I had quite a bit of cash at the time. It was just circumstances, and I started deploying it on the dip. Because I thought to myself, well, I've no reason to panic here because I'm not really holding that much. So I'm gonna see if this is a good opportunity for the long term. And I got into Tesla, First Solar, Sunrun, and quite a few others, and I still hold positions from them, today, multi-100% profits. Tesla was an incredible gain. And I got XRP at 10 cents, or was it 11 cents, I think, and I'm still holding that position now. And when people moan about XRP not doing anything, well, it depends where you got in. It really depends where you got in, because that position is sitting on like a times 20 right now, and it's not that long a period of time to wait, 4 or 5 years for a times 20. So what have I learned from the crashes and the dips? Buy. I mean, what just happened now? We just had the big tariff crash, didn't we? And all the stocks fell. And how much have they recovered so quickly? And at the time it was happening, everyone was going to say, no, there's no liquidity from the Fed this time. We're not going to get a V bottom. And we've kind of got a little V bottom going on.
Okay. No, it's the truth.
During you're talking about COVID crash and everything, and it was really scary. It was scary for all of us. And for you to have bought Ripple at 11 cents, I mean, and all the other assets that you mentioned, but what was going through your mind, even though you didn't have a lot of the cash allocated, but were you scared or worried? And everyone was shouting that Bitcoin.
I did have quite a bit of XRP, in all fairness. I had a bit of XRP and I was panicking a bit, because I was green in the gills and it had dropped a lot. But I thought, has anything changed? Has anything changed with the future of this cryptocurrency? I was reading news around it and I was thinking, all of this stuff is positive. This is just, how do you call it? Fear, panic-driven, massive fear, panic-driven momentum downwards. I'm in it for the long term, so I'm going to buy some. That's it. It's as simple as that. That's how it happened. But yeah, I was feeling pretty crap watching it happen.
Let me ask you, what do you do whenever you see your portfolio down? Because I've seen my portfolio down, and I know it sucks. It's bad. You know what I mean? Like like you feel like the worst idiot ever. But then the reality is like I've learned to sort of like my head is in one place and my stomach is in the other. You know what I mean? And I've learned to trust my stomach, and it's like, okay, I'm not an idiot, first of all, and second of all, I'm just gonna buy it. You know what I mean? Like every single time I buy when I feel like this, it ends up being a good choice. So what usually goes through your head? Because I know Timothy likes to go for a walk. Yeah.
I do a lot of running. And running really helps. It kind of takes your mind off it. Just stay calm. I mean, you got to try and be stoic as an investor and not get emotional. It's hard because your brain sees these drawdowns. Your brain looks at these drawdowns and it immediately goes into like a protection mechanism. And I think that's why a lot of new investors, when they see drawdown, they'll just exit. They'll just panic. Your brain is telling you to cut losses, because I'm speaking about the brain as like a separate person here, but bear with me. The brain tells you to cut losses because it thinks it's going to keep going further down. And usually that happens near the bottom, I've found. So you've got to be stoic and not be emotional, and just think, why have I invested in this? Shall I buy some more? And if you're not going to buy some more, if you've got the cash and you're not going to buy some more, maybe you should evaluate why you're in that asset, I think.
Okay.
Because there are opportunities. There are opportunities. So how do you not panic? You see it as an opportunity.
Well, you get a discount, right? Like you go to the discount shop, and if nothing has changed about the story, about the fundamentals, about the management, about the important things behind the company, right? Like how much XRP, how would it get affected by tariffs? You know, it's like, okay, like maybe there is less buying, less selling. I even think the inflation that we're going to see is going to be really mild, because we're just going to see a reshuffling of the economy. We're not going to see a shutdown of COVID, right?
Yeah.
So at the beginning, you're trying to sort of like analyze, at least what I do is try to sit down and analyze as much as I can. It's like, okay, like let's really figure out what goes in here and start, you know, what is tariffs? Why tariffs are bad? Okay, how has tariffs affected in the past? And then you start doing the history and all of the things. But then you come to a point where it's like you have to sit down at a point and make a decision, whether you buy, sell, or hold.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. And you just got to be patient. Patience is the key. As I think my drawdown went over 20% this year. But the same thing happened last year. At the start of last year, I think I had drawdown of 20%, and then it recovered, and my portfolio was flat until like the end of the year, and it finished at 75%. So this is what I mean. This experience helps us going forward, because that happened. It helps me with drawdown, because I know that things can turn very quickly, and it's recovering now, and it does make you feel better. It definitely makes you feel better when things start to go up. You know, that dread kind of slips away.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that.
Do you find with the, you know, like you're so used to, like you're talking about stoicism and not being emotional and keeping that in check. Do you find, which is more challenging, the fear or the euphoria? And I say this because for me,
that's a good question.
I've been in crypto for so long that I'm quite used to seeing drawdown, right? Obviously, you see gains as well at some point in the year, but I actually find it quite difficult. It's actually more of a challenge for me to take profit, even though I'm learning to, and I'm much more disciplined. But when we see a rally, I start to panic because everybody's greedy, and I'm just like, oh gosh, I need to take profit at some point. When do I do it? But when everyone's fearful, I'm pretty calm, and so I find it more challenging when the euphoria is picking up. How do you find that? Are you stoic in both situations?
I find the euphoria more challenging.
Yeah.
Like you just said.
That's interesting. That's so interesting. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's a really good question, Mimi. That's a really good question.
The euphoria isn't like when things get really high. It's not like a sense of dread, like when things are really far down. It's a sense of like I need to take profit at some point, but my hand isn't moving towards the mouse because I think this is going higher, basically,
Yeah,
and
because
it can be so difficult.
your own greed is taking over, and you're watching it, and I watch myself do it. I'm like, I have an out of body experience, and I'm like, I'm doing it again. I'm just holding for way too long. I'm like, take profit, just take profit.
Yeah,
So that is a challenge, to watch yourself get greedy, because at the end of the day, we're only human.
yeah,
I'll admit it, we are only just human. If I was AI, I would know when to take profit straight away, but you have to combat that
Yeah.
human side, and it's a challenge every time.
The investor's worst enemy is himself, you know?
yeah.
So it's definitely true. Man, that's so the euphoria and you know what was the thing that flipped me this bear cycle? Was when every single investor I was talking about was telling me defense and gold and defense. And I'm like, bro, tell me next time when I'm at
Yeah.
all-time highs. Don't
Yeah.
come to me right now saying, oh, let's go into gold when I'm freaking down 10% of my portfolio. Tell me at the top. I will go into safety, you know? It was insane. So like that was one of the things I was just like every single investor, it's like in the popular investor meet, in the close groups that I have, every single person gold. And we're gonna go into safety, Coca-Cola, Philip Morris. And I'm like, Coca-Cola's sitting at 30p, they're not growing anything. What are we doing here? So it's just like in that moment I went heavy. I went TQQQ calls. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, this is the bottom. Like every single person is panicking, looking for an out, and there's just not a way out, right? So it's like you learn, and this comes with experience, because it's very nice to say all of these things that we're saying, but experience is very important when you're trading or investing in this case, because it's like we have a saying in Spanish, which is like whenever you get hit in the head, you know, you get like a bop, like a bop in the head, but
Yeah.
I say that el chichote makes the head bigger, and I say the bop makes the head bigger. You know, so every single time you get hurt, you learn not to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
But that's what happened in 2021. Like I rode the full market up and down basically. I took my profits in Ethereum and Cardano, but XRP I did the full cycle up and down. And you learn from it. But even this time, I still should have, depending on how the future goes, I should have taken more profits in some assets like HVAL, which did like a ×8. But I did this time. I learned, and I took a lot of my XRP off the table. You got to take profit. You learn to take profit.
It is the truth. I think this is what, like, the lesson I learned this crash. It was like, and there was enough euphoria around Trump. I should have just like, you know what? A little bit of the table. It's okay. I'm happy with interest rates at 4%. It's not bad. You know?
I didn't see this correction coming. I don't think many people did.
The thing was like Trump talked about it. It was expected, the tariffs. We just didn't know that it was the first issue that he wanted to talk about every single day, every single minute of the hour. Because I was like, February, we're probably going to get a little bit of clarity. I just didn't understand what the clarity meant. And then this was brought up because of just, he wanted to focus on this. He wanted to get this done really quickly. So you learn, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah, I mean,
truth.
like hindsight's 2020, but it was almost a black swan event. Almost, it felt like it, an almost black swan, and so you can't really predict those moments. All the stars were aligning, and you would think, yeah, all the euphoria surrounding Trump, and it might have been too good to be true, but everything was aligning, and us investors had been waiting for so long for this moment. So it's really difficult. It would have been very difficult to be like, yeah, I'm going to take profit.
Yeah.
At that time.
It's hard. You know what I mean? That's why this, like, I think the hard part of this is doing just not what the brain tells you, but what the heart, the heart should do. It's hard to say. Okay, let me ask you this, Toby. Why you do this? Why do you invest? What's the purpose of it? What's the emotion behind it?
Financial freedom. That's what I want. Eventually, self sufficiency. I want to live off the income that I've made through investing.
Let me ask you, what does financial freedom mean to you in this case, right? Because for me, it may be very different than from you.
It means not having to work for anyone ever. It means having enough money to look after your family and have a nice life, all from your income from your investments. That's basically it in a nutshell. Just
Okay.
just having self-sufficiency.
Okay. And let me ask you this, because the thing is you don't have to allow people or share all of the information you're doing, like all of the information you're acquiring and sharing and creating all the posts, and let people copy you and keep that following happy, not happy. And then I have a second question, a part B for this, but I want to know why do you go through all of the hassle that comes with a popular investor? Why do
Um,
you share it?
I like that people can make money off of my, I want to say advice, because it's not financial advice, but off of my
Experience.
posts, off of my positions. Um, if I can do that, then that gives me a lot of satisfaction. Like last year, there was one guy who followed my posts a lot. He's become like a good friend on there now. And he told me he made $100,000, which is far more than I've made.
Oh
Um,
wow.
just from following my advice. I think he followed other PIs as well, in the same sort of crypto sphere. But yeah, he told me, and I've no reason not to believe it, because when he copied me for a period of time, and it added
I think it
like
records it in the
65
back
grand
end,
to
but I have
my
no idea.
assets under management. So
We'll,
just stuff like that's amazing. Just the
we'll
fact
know.
that you can.
Yeah. Like
So
that's the
just
thing. Like it
stuff like
does
that gives me
change.
great satisfaction.
Yeah, it does change lives, I think. Like, it's like the possibility of just sharing the knowledge, and it's like maybe out of 1,000 posts that you do, maybe none of them do anything, and then one post makes somebody just change their mind about something, make a decision, do something different, and next thing you know, they can be making maybe 100,000, $1 million. Who knows, right? With the
Yeah.
compounding effects of.
I mean, there's a lot of responsibility with it, with putting out posts like this, saying I think this is going to happen, but at the end of the day, it's free. People aren't paying for the information, are they? So,
Yeah. Let me ask you, do you invest for yourself or do you invest for the copiers?
well, it's both. It's both, isn't it? It's if I make money, the copiers are making money. I want the copiers to make money. It genuinely gives me satisfaction when they're making money. I don't want people to copy me and lose money over the long term. So, I have a vested interest in making profits over time. But primarily, it's my portfolio, and it's a great deal of my life's money in there. I have a interest in making profits, because I see it as like a very, very long-term investment. Okay, the crypto I want to get out when I've made the profits, but that gets rolled over into other stuff, into my stocks and ETFs and things, and for the long term. And I have two young daughters, 2 years old and 4 years old, and I got to think of them in the far, far future. I want them to enjoy the fruits of my labours. I don't want them to be spoiled, but I'm thinking of them when I'm investing.
Okay. I get you. It's like you're trying to build a better future for not just yourself, but everybody around, which is
Yeah,
good.
and I want to enjoy an early retirement, certainly.
Who wouldn't? You know what I mean? The thing is, you know what? I enjoy doing the videos too much. I don't think I'll retire. I just enjoy this. I live for this.
Oh, I'd
So
still do it. I'd still do it.
yeah,
I'd still invest. Yeah.
yeah, I get you. Cool. Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this real quick. What's so far been the most fulfilling moments that you can sort of pinpoint, other than the guy that told you he made 100K, which is nuts? You know,
Gone blank. Can't think.
that's
How about
okay.
how about with in terms of you and I both know that this crypto bull cycle will end at some point. So I'm guessing you're on the same page. Like I'll be taking pretty much all my profits, most of it
Yeah.
anyway. What then? What then? What after this crypto cycle? What then? What are you going to do? You're saying you're going to roll the cash into something else?
I want to continue having that edge, and I want to continue having an allocation of my portfolio, a percentage allocation. So at the minute it's 50% allocated towards extreme growth, crypto, high risk. I kind of want to lower that over time, maybe 30%. But I do want to continue rolling over them profits into growth prospects, whether that's a growth stock, or crypto, or maybe a little bit of trading, which I do like to do a little bit of trading, but only with a very small amount of my portfolio. But I'm looking for growth. I'm always looking for growth. But at the minute, I'm allocated in crypto.
So growth, where else is there growth? Because we know, yep, crypto growth for sure, that's the future. But where else do you think? Any other sectors?
Yeah, I eventually, and I haven't really fully looked into it properly yet, but there's two sectors I wanna look into, and one of them's hydrogen. Okay, because I have a sneaky feeling that hydrogen may replace electric cars one day. And it might be a bit of a long shot, and I think there's a lot of hurdles to overcome. Green hydrogen, of course, is it's expensive and inefficient at the moment, and the infrastructure's not there, and automakers and governments are heavily invested in battery electric tech now. But I think there might be a future in hydrogen, so I'm going to really start looking into hydrogen. And the other thing I want to get into is robotics. And people might see that as bad, as in like robotics will replace people doing their jobs, and
I disagree, but that's not
I
my
think
point. Don't get me started. Continue. Continue.
I think robotics, it's inevitable. So that's another sector I'm going to look into. There was one ETF I really like called bots, because it has some Japanese exposure as well, but I can't get it in the UK on eToro, so that's frustrating me.
They want to protect you. They want to keep your money safe. They're not able to do it themselves, but they know best,
Yeah.
It's so interesting when you're talking about like AI, robotics, and all that, right? Because I had this thought, like I was having a conversation with someone today, and I think I posted a story about a robot making a hamburger, and one of my friends said, "Well, we're going to lose our jobs," and I just said, "You know what? In the entire history of humankind, humans have been losing jobs over time. When there's innovation, technology, it's not even about now. It's always happened. When the wheel came out, like any innovation, any invention, humans have lost jobs. And so what do? We have to evolve. We have to upskill. And I think that's something that people don't really, there's no real thought around that, or no conversation around that. And because it is scary, I think, yeah, okay, I get where people are coming from. Jobs will be lost. However, it's always been the case. So we just keep evolving. Yeah.
Innovative destruction in economics, we call it, innovative
Right.
destruction. Innovative destruction. Yeah. It's the beauty of it too. Okay, let me ask you. So what's the future? Where do you go from now here, right? Like how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself investing forever? Is it something
Yeah.
a true long-term investor right here,
Yeah, because I'm obsessed with it. I would go as far as to say I'm obsessed with the markets. I'm obsessed with looking for growth. I just like it. I like the whole world of investing, and I can't see myself not being immersed in this world of investing. So I'm going to continue. I want to be on eToro for the very, very long term and continue providing growth.
Yeah, I mean, like other than the money, which is great that you get from investing, is there anything else in that world that gives you that dopamine hit? That where because you say, I'm guessing, you pretty much live and breathe it. You're so passionate about it. So when you break it down, is there anything aside from the money that gives you that dopamine hit at all?
Well, it's just when I do analysis and I'm bullish on something, and then a few years down the line, even if I'm out of it, okay, even if I've come out of it and it hits where I thought it would hit, it just gives me great satisfaction. That's the dopamine hit. You're just predicting things. We don't have a crystal ball, do we? But I like doing it.
So pretty
One
much
sec.
like getting it right when you say
One
you've done
sec.
the analysis.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
Well, let me ask you this. So based on all, so if you could send yourself a little note. Okay, you know what? Let's make this interesting because you were talking about Twitter. If you could send yourself a little tweet to your younger self, what would you write there? Buy Nvidia, don't sell. That's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Hold on to it. If I could write a note to my younger self, invest as much as I can in innovation, crypto, tech, just things that would grow. Yeah, I would say invest more because I've made a few mistakes. I mean, hindsight is 2020, but in 2018, 2019, I had XRP and Cardano, yeah, and I had a small amount in Cardano, and I had a larger amount in XRP, and I've still got that position for Cardano, okay, and it was like a times 96. So going forward, I'd tell myself to have more conviction in things. If based on risk, I've got to balance risk, of course, but definitely have more conviction in things because you never know what might happen to something you believe in. It might really grow and it might change your life.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth. You gotta learn. Like it's something. It's funny because we trust the smart people on CNBC, and we trust at the beginning you trust the analyst and their predictions and all that stuff. But then you learn to trust yourself as you go by, and it's always
Yeah,
so good when you get it right, And then also when you see the innovation as well, because it's like you're investing in companies that are trying to change the world for the better. And I'm in the camp that we are in the best generation ever in this world has ever seen. We have access to Amazon, where we can get anything we want the next day to our house. Not
sometimes
even
on the same
kings can
day.
do that. Yeah, we have access to like intelligence in a book, which is like a phone. It's like it's the reality. Like we have everything at our fingertips, so we are in a place where I think it's like it's like anybody can just pick up this skill set and just go with it too, and kind of like
Yeah,
adapt and learn it. And the reason I share it and the reason we do market bets is just to like share whatever we know, whether we're right or wrong, because we're gonna be wrong. You want to me to make a 100% guarantee statement is that I am gonna be wrong in the future. You know what I mean? For sure. It is the truth. But
yeah,
you try to be less wrong. It's the way that I
yeah.
see it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why you try and be diversified and don't go all in on one thing, I guess,
Yeah.
because not everything's going to make it.
It's the truth. And sometimes one thing that I like to say, it's I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah,
And as an investor, you have to know what you don't know, which is like it could be anything. You could be as right as you want to be, but there might be just one thing that you had never thought about. Why? Because it's the innovation part of investing.
yeah,
Somebody's gonna figure it out before you. And
yeah,
maybe you do, and maybe you're right. But getting it right consistently is the hard bit. One time, two times,
yeah.
200 times, it becomes, the odds start getting against you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's it. Mimi, any other questions you want to throw around?
No, I think that's really it. We pretty much covered everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good. It was actually, yeah.
I want to say thank you. Yeah. Thank you for being
Yeah.
here. Don't forget to check out Toby's portfolio in the
Yeah.
comments below.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget to hit
Yeah.
the like and subscribe if you want to see more content, or you have any other people that you want us to sort of talk about and interview. Make sure you put them in the comments below. We are trying to grow and share our knowledge free of charge. You don't even have to pay a penny. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. Peace.